Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial we are going to create this hand-painted shiplap fall scene tumbler and doing a huge giveaway in collaboration with Creative Fabrica. We're going to go ahead and get our tumbler prepped for our Creative Fabrica files. So I have spray painted a 24-ounce plump from the Steel Magnolia with the head in the clouds matte white from Color Shot, and I am using a makeup brush to apply some glitter glue from CRYSTALAC company so we can apply our glitter. This glitter glue glows on really smooth and even, and you don't need a tremendous amount of it, so it's a really good alternative to the epoxy method if that is what you use to apply your glitter, and a really good replacement for Mod Podge if that is what you use. The glitter we are using is Virginish from PDB Creative Studio. Let me tell you a little about this glitter. So aside from it being one of the most beautiful pearly white glitters that I have ever seen, both the fine and extra fine cuts have teeny tiny little sparkle particles, and they will take over everything that you own in the room that you apply this glitter in. So do yourself a favor and grab this glitter from PDB Creative Studio because it is beautiful, and when you use it, take it outside, not in your husband's garage, because everything will sparkle. Okay, we got a little off track there, but it's fine. I allowed my glitter glue to dry for 4 hours and then added 2 layers of Speedy Petey DIY epoxy. Speedy Petey dries incredibly fast, so about 2 hours later I was able to start painting on my shiplap. And to do that, I'm using 1-inch painter's tape. I just started at the top rim and giving just a teeny tiny bit of distance in between each strip of painter's tape. Your lines do not have to be perfect, and they don't all have to be exactly the same. I've never seen a shiplap wall that is perfectly even and has nice, perfect little stripes in between the wood planks. But if you're OCD like me and the stripes must be perfect when you apply them, then I will show you how to rough it up just a bit after we remove this tape. After I finished applying all of my tape strips, I grabbed my tumbler stand from Cami Page Boutique. It really helps me keep it level, and I can maneuver my tumbler around and hold on to the end a whole lot better than just holding the tumbler or the turner arm. And I grabbed the paintbrush that I normally use to apply my alcohol inks. I just roughed up the ends on an old good paintbrush, but you can definitely grab one of those really cheap ones. You just want some coarse bristles on the end of it to really get the whole rustic shiplap effect. I am taking slate gray from the CRYSTALAC company. The reason I am choosing this paint for this specific project is because it is waterproof. I will be able to apply my water slides directly on top of this paint without concern that it is going to spread or run. If you do not have the Flipn Awesome paints from the CRYSTALAC company, you will want to either use another waterproof paint so that you can apply your water slides directly on top, or your other option is to use any paints, or you can also use alcohol ink, allow those to dry, put a very thin coat of epoxy on top of that, and then you can proceed with your water slides and your decals. So to paint these lines on, I just went very lightly. I didn't go heavy because, again, we don't want these lines to be perfect. I want some negative space in there. I don't really want super solid lines because I want the images that I put on this tumbler to be our focal point and not a really bold, dark shiplap in the background. Once I finished painting, then I just removed all of that tape immediately. We did very thin coat of paint, so it was almost immediately dry, and I didn't have any concern of taking the tape off and damaging any of the lines that we had just painted. So now that we have our lines, I'm going to take that same paintbrush and a little dab of this paint on my paper. I tested it out to make sure that I can get some really faint streaks because now we are going for the grain in the wood. And I don't want it to come off the paintbrush in globs or heavy streaks. I want very, very light so that we can get a little bit of a wood grain effect. Now on those lines, again, since I made everything like perfect and even in between each of my painter's tape streaks, I'm just going over a couple of those lines a little heavier with the paint on the paintbrush, either dabbing over them or just a heavier streak of paint so that I can rough them up just a bit. Once we had all of our shiplap complete, then I just set that to the side so it can dry and went over to Creative Fabrica to grab our files. Creative Fabrica is a huge platform full of millions of files and fonts. You can even get Lightroom presets. And one of the best things about Creative Fabrica is everything that you download comes with a commercial use license. And the exciting news is Creative Fabrica has been generous enough to give us a free lifetime subscription to one of my followers. To win the tumbler we are making in this tutorial, plus the lifetime Creative Fabrica subscription, make sure you are subscribed to our channel and then head over to Brittany Barnes Boutique on Instagram. I have a link down below in the description that you can sign up for just $1 for your first month, and then it renews at $19 monthly after that. There are no strings attached, so if you don't think Creative Fabrica is for you, you can cancel before your second month with no cancellation fees or anything like that. But the amount of files that I use monthly most definitely add up well over that $19, so Creative Fabrica saves me a ton since I have access to all of these free downloadable files, fonts, and even Lightroom presets to help me with taking photos of my products. So I've had the screen recording slowed down in the background just so it can slow it down and you can see exactly what I was doing. I have already browsed all of the files that I wanted to use for this tumbler, and all you have to do is hit the little heart and it saves it to your favorites. So I have everything that I need saved into the My Favorites tab up at the top right. So when I click on that tab, I can select the file that I want to download and then hit the green download button, and it immediately drops that into my files on my laptop. We used 4 separate files for this tumbler, and I have already downloaded a few, but to give you an example, I'm going to select this one in the center top. It pops up, I'm going to click the download button, and then you'll see the little icon hop on over to my downloaded files. And this is exactly what you would do for anything on Creative Fabrica, whether it be sublimation files, cut files for your Cricut or Glowforge. It all works the same way. You just click that green download button and that file is yours and free to use however you like. Now, I have already been playing around with these files to get them how I wanted, but I'm going to go back and show you how I upload them to my Cricut program. So I go over to Upload in Design Space, and then the way that I do it is go to my downloads, pop that screen up, and then just drag the file that I want to upload to Cricut onto that upload screen. I select complex details so all of the details will show. I hit continue, print to cut, and then continue once again. It will very slowly upload to Design Space. It does not work as fast as you just saw. I cut out all of that wait time. It does take a while for these large files to upload. And then for my cut files, you can select simple and repeat those same steps, except select cut image rather than print to cut. Now, if you do select print to cut, it's okay. You can swap that over once you upload them to your Design Space screen. I'll have all 4 of these files listed down below for y'all so you can easily click and download. So no worries about that. I just took some elements from each of those files and imported all of them so we can compose our image. I selected all of the ones that I was going to use for our main focal point. They're really large images, so they import big on the screen. I'm just going to resize those down, move the little baskets and pumpkins out of the way, and we're going to create our mountain scene that's going to be in behind our window. I just played around with these files until I got what looked like a more realistic mountain scene, I guess you can say. I used that background image so that we can have a sky in the background, and then overlaid the other images on top. Now, if you right click, then you can move the position, so you can move it back or move it towards the front and get those layers exactly how you want. Once I had my little window scene exactly how I wanted, I just highlighted that entire scene and went down to the bottom right corner and flattened the image. This is going to attach them all together and it will cut them as one. And to make sure that we cut this out in the shape of the window, I duplicated our little window file, resized it to 3.5 inches wide, and then I just overlapped that on top of our scene and resized the scene to where it fits behind the window. Now, if you imported this as a print to cut, all you have to do is go up it to the top left like I just did and select cut file. I then went to contour and selected hide all contours. We're going to attach this to our image here in just a bit to make sure that it cuts out in the shape of our window, but I've just moved that to the side for now so that we can overlay our little basket and pumpkins. So I resized that second window to 3.5 inches as well, moved it to the front, and then put it on top of our scene. I'm going to move both our little pumpkins and basket to the front, and then layer them on top of the window on the bottom and just resize them to what I like. Once I had those resized and in position that I wanted on top of the window scene, I moved the window and the scene out from behind those two, highlighted the basket and the pumpkins, and flattened that image as well. And the last step was to take our contoured image, layer that on top of our window scene. We're going to highlight both of those and select attach. You do not want to flatten this. If you flatten it, it's going to print out a big gray blob. If you attach it, you are layering a cut file on top of a print to cut image. So it's only going to cut out that shape, but it will print that entire scene for you. You just follow the prompts on your Cricut program to get that print and cut. Now, after we do that, then I am going to create our WATERSLIDE images also in Design Space. I created a small rectangle of about 5 inches wide by 8 inches tall. That is what I figured our negative space on the back side of our tumbler was going to be, and I wanted to make sure that all 3 of these images would fit in that space properly. So I just created that image, sent it to the back, and then positioned these little flourishes inside of that box to make sure that they would fit on my tumbler. For these, we are using clear WATERSLIDE rather than print to cut. So once I send them over to the cut screen, when I select print and the pop-up comes up, I'm going to turn off the bleed. If the add bleed toggle is on, you're gonna have a border printed out, and you definitely do not want that. I sealed the WATERSLIDE 3 times with Color Shot Matte Clear Coat, or of course you can use Rust-Oleum Matte Clear as well. And rather than dipping these in a big bowl of water, I'm just taking a little spray bottle full of water, spraying the back side of these, and then once they start to release, I will apply these to the tumbler. We're only putting these on the back side for now, and then we'll add on a little more detail after we have our main image on the front. I used a squeegee to press out any extra water that might be underneath the florals, and then took a piece of wrapping tissue paper and pressed out the remaining bits of water and dried up my tumbler. I've taken a piece of transfer tape and just stuck it all over the table to remove some of that stickiness. If it is sticky, it's going to remove some of your image that's on the printable vinyl. So try to take away as much as you can and still have just enough tackiness to hold on to your vinyl. I put that back on the backing, leaving just a little bit to press down once I have it lined up on top of the little scenery. I use the hinge method to apply this down and only really press down the border of the vinyl so that I'm not putting too much pressure on the center of it, and then just removed that transfer tape altogether. This is one solid image, so it's not going to be hard just to remove and place by hand instead of using our transfer tape. Once I have that in position and pressed down, I'm just going to take my little basket and pumpkins and layer them on top of the bottom. Now you can wait until after you have your little window scene on your tumbler to add on those bottom pieces. I wanted to get it lined up perfectly, and I was afraid if I did them separate I would have too big of a gap on either the top or the bottom, so I did them together before adding them to my tumbler. We're going to place this little window scene on the opposite side of our water slides, and then we'll go back in and add a couple more details. There were some little elements that didn't quite transfer when I removed the printable vinyl, so I just took them and hand placed them around the pumpkin where they should be. I went back and printed out 2 more of those little flourishes, and I am just going to trim them out to fill in some of that negative space. Originally, I didn't plan on adding any more, but after I got that window scene on, those spaces on either side of it sort of looked a little plain, so I wanted to add on just a few little elements around the window. The idea that I had in my head was I wanted to create what looked like an old farmhouse looking out from the inside to a beautiful mountain scene outdoors. Now, the printable vinyl that I used is BUTTERCRAFT's, and their printable vinyl is waterproof, so there wasn't really any concern of getting the printable vinyl wet, but I was still careful so that we can lessen the dry time before we have to apply our epoxy. We do want to seal this. One, we have tons of little elements in this, and also we're using printable vinyl. To avoid any micro bubbles, I used the same Color Shot matte clear spray paint. You can also use Rust-Oleum matte to seal this in twice. Allowed that to dry for about an hour, and then I used DIY Speedy Petey Fast Set epoxy for the first of our 2 final layers. DIY epoxy does have an option to purchase additional UV protection in your epoxy. So for the final layer on this, since we are working with lots of like creamy colors and whites, I want to protect this for as long as possible from yellowing. So for my final layer, I'm going to use the regular DIY epoxy with UV+. I really love how this turned out. If you want to win this tumbler and a lifetime free subscription to Creative Fabrica, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, give this video a thumbs up, and then head over to Instagram for the giveaway details. All product links will be down in the description below, as well as some discount codes, and of course the link to Creative Fabrica to sign up for just $1. That is all for today. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next time.